What is up, guys? Eric here at Team Eccentric, and I'm bringing you guys my updated third place Mermail deck profile that I took to this locals that I just went to at the store in Lockport called Casual Dragons Gaming. This Mermail deck performed rather well for the most part. There were some glaring issues in the side deck, I feel, considering there were some meta decks present, particularly the one I played against, which was Ryziel. I'll note that when I get to it, but regardless, point being, this deck performed rather well otherwise. I mean, there weren't, as many meta decks in the room, for sure, but everybody there was at least, good enough to be able to play the decks that they brought. And that said, even playing the Ryziel player, I had stuff that I could do. Granted, I still lost the game. That was my one loss in the tournament. It was 4 rounds. And that was my only loss, but I was still able to play through a considerable amount of their disruptions. So, yeah, we'll get right into the profile, and I'll just kind of show you guys what I was playing. So, to start it off, obviously, we have the triple Neptibus, the Atlantean Prince. Obviously, this card is the hinge point of the whole deck. You send one Atlantean to add one Atlantean, and that's cost to send. And then, you just go off with your plays, and also its grave effect is more relevant than ever, where if it's sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, you can special summon, you can target one Atlantean in your grave and special summon it. So, yeah, this card, obviously we all know it is the linchpin of the entire deck. So then, triple Atlantean Dragoons, same thing, essentially. To a lesser extent than Neptibus, but Dragoons is also one of the hinge points of this deck. If it's sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, you can search a Sea Serpent from your deck. Also, it has an onboard effect that is absolutely not relevant, never comes up. If you control it and then, other level 3 or lower Sea Serpents, those level 3 or lower Sea Serpents can attack directly. Totally irrelevant. Yeah, this card is nutty because we all know it's not once per turn, and also it triggers off of being detached for Xyz materials, which is absolutely crazy. So then we're playing triple Abyss Run, the Atlantean Spirit. This card is what allows the deck to really function on a competitive level right now, because you summon the big stupid fish, the Coelacanth, from your deck, and then you just go off with fish plays that way. But Abyss Rhine has other utility in the sense that it is a disruption in your graveyard. You can banish it and then discard a card for cost, and then you can draw a card, which generally the cost you want to discard is always going to be heavy infantry, because heavy infantry, obviously we know when it's sent to graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, allows you to pop a face up your opponent controls. So you get to cycle cards cycle cards out of your deck and draw, as well as pop a card on a new chain, which just allows for a lot of good disruptive capability. So that is it for the Atlantean names. Then for the Mermail names, triple Mermail Abystius. This is definitely one of your better starters. It's still, the only thing I wish I could really work into this deck a little more is the Abyss Osha line, which makes Teus a 1.5 card combo. But you have to play the Xyz Torpedo, which takes up an extra deck spot, as well as play the Osha, and sometimes the Osha isn't always the best to see. So, but either way, Teus itself is still a really solid card, just being a 1-drop body that gets you into your Shadow Squads and gets you into your Abyss Rhines. It's just a really, really solid card. Then we have triple Mermail Mermail Shadow Squad is nuts. When this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Mermail or Atlantean from the deck. So this will be what you tend to send on your when you're going down your Neptibus lines. Generally, you send this and add an Neptibus, and then after that, you trigger this on a new chain to summon the Pike from your deck. I did bump Pike up to 3. I feel like Pike is good at 3 because of the fact that it is a normal summon that allows you to ditch for cost on summon, which can be actually very relevant, because sometimes, if your opponent has some kind of a disruptive measure that allows them to, say, hit another card, at least when you normal summon the Pike and discard for cost, even if it does get disrupted, you're still discarding for cost, so you're still getting something off of it. That's kind of what I tailored this deck to play more into and kind of utilize more. We all know Mermail is known for sending for cost, right? But like, I really made this deck so that it's gonna send for cost one way or another. Then from there, I play one Mermail Abyss Megalo. Megalo has really fallen in favor. It's not as good as it used to be. It's more in here just so that if I draw multiple Atlanteans, I can chain block effectively, as well as it does search the Abyss Speller traps, which can be relevant here and there. But Megalo at 1 will probably end up being replaced by that Rumbling Atlantean that's coming out in January, I think, in Supreme Darkness. I know the set name, but that is questionable because Megalo is such a nostalgic card as well. It's part of the reason why I picked up this deck because I loved the artwork of this card. So, so that's it for the Mermail specific names. By the way, we all know that the Mermail Shadow Squad and the Abyss Rhine are treated as the other archetypes as well. So, Mermail Shadow Squad's treated as an Atlantean, Abyss Rhine's treated as a Mermail. The deck has gained a lot of fluidity in that respect. Cards just act in such a way that when you search one thing, you're searching another thing. It's just a crazy deck. So next, this is a bit of a controversial take, but I'm playing triple Deep Sea Minstrel. A lot of people have cut Minstrel to 1. Some are even maybe siding 2, maining 1, or siding 1, maining 2. I'm maining all 3. I just feel like I want to get my opponent's hand traps out as early as possible so that I can do my lines, as well as if you see this and a Shadow Squad or Dragoons, you have combo and a way to look your opponent's hand to prepare that combo and tailor it towards whatever your opponent would be playing. So I think Minstrel is just way too good not to play. Then we are playing one Moon Glacier. Obviously that's obligatory, it goes without saying. You special summon this when you have exactly 5 water monsters in your graveyard and you rip 2 out of your opponent's hand. I mean, how could that be how could that not be good? So then we are playing the one Coelacanth. I swore up and down that I hated this card. I absolutely hated this card at first. But then, my eyes were opened to the fact that this card really is very easily accessed through this deck. I mean, Abyss Rhine just allows you to get right to it, and even if you don't get Abyss Rhine, let's say you draw it, which was my main argument before, you have a card in your extra deck that allows you to just spec it right from the hand, and that just makes it that much better. So, yeah, we are playing the one Super Ancient Deep Sea King Coelacanth, which just really allows you to play through Droll and Shifter more than anything. It's like you want to be able to play through your worst hand traps, and this card just allows you to do that. So, then for non-engine monsters, we are playing triple Ash Blossom, triple Perulia, and double Folos in the main. So, Ash Blossom, it's Ash Blossom, you want to stop your opponent's mulch armies, but also Perulia, being a water, adds a different dynamic, as well as the fact that it's a level 4 gives it an even more valuable way in the deck that you can use it, because you can just use Coral Anemone to bring it back and it becomes immediately a material to make your Bahamut Shark. Folos is Folos, so it's really, really good, but at the same time it can brick you if you draw it, going first. But it's still a good card, so you still want to play it. At worst, you could always use it as a discard for your Mermail Shadow Squad or your Poseidra Abyss. However, but that's it for the monster non-engine cards. We do have some more non-engine in the main deck I'll show you in a moment. We have one Abyss Sting Triania, which is essentially Premature Burial that also is a recycle, as well as protects the body that it summons, or it protects the body that it's equipped to. This card honestly is really, really solid. Then we're playing one for one. Just another copy of Neptibus. I don't see why you wouldn't play it. And then one Call by the Grave to ensure that our combos resolve. And then last but not least, we're playing some trap cards, and the non-engine trap is Infinite Impermanence. I could be maining the triple Dominus Impulse. I would normally, but I feel like that card is not very good against Ryziel, and that's really the deck I'm absolutely the most afraid of. Granted, Malice is another deck that is scary, and the Impulse is good against that deck, but I feel like Impermanence at least is still relevant enough to play against multiple decks, plus it's just a good solid hand trap that can target negate something. So, and last but not least, the one Virtue Stream, which is the Icarus attack. that is searchable off of the Virtue Dragon. And also it has another nifty little effect in the graveyard where you can banish it. You know, it's a trap card, so it's spell speed 2 even in the grave. You can banish it and target a card on either player's field, make it a water, or if the monster that you target is already a water, then the next time it would be destroyed, it isn't. So it's a pretty solid card. So next we're getting into the extra deck. The extra deck is for the most part rather standard. There's not really too much to go on about with it. So we're playing one Mermail King Neptibus. This card is absolutely nutty. So while this is on the field, water monsters that it points to can't be targeted by card effects. Also, if a water monster is sent to the graveyard for cost to activate another water monster's effect, I believe, or no, it's just sent for cost for anything, I believe. You can either add or equip one equip spell that has Abyss in its name to this, or to your hand. So it's really, really strong. Also, if it's destroyed by a battle or card effect by your opponent, then you can add an Atlantean or Mermail from your deck to your hand. So it's essentially a sprite elf for Mermail, which really does give you a little bit more power behind your board, because now your opponent can't target the Toads, they can't target the Abyss Dweller, they can't target the Stealth Kraken or the Gaios or whatever you have. So this card is nuts. Next we are playing the Mermail Link 2, Mermail Abyss Lacia. This card I've played in every Mermail list since it came out. It's a solid card. By no means is it broken. It's a solid card. I mean, I've explained what it does 1,000 times. During your opponent's turn, you can discard a card, add one Mermail, and then also the monsters it points to gain 500 attack points. And also, if it's sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect or battle, then you can send one water monster from your deck to the graveyard for cost, and then target one water monster in your graveyard and special summon it in defense position. So then we have the Zealantis, and this is mostly for the Zealantis water lock, where you lock yourself into waters and then banish everything. But against water decks, it comes up where you can set all their stuff face down, which can be relevant. Then we are playing one Abyss Keeper, and this is the card used in order to get the Coelacanth out of your hand. You really want to make sure that you can resolve Coelacanth, and this card just allows you to do that more and more. And then last but not least for the links, one Morensis Coral Anemone. I thought about bumping Coral Anemone back up to 2 because I was playing 2 at first, but to be honest with you, you only need 1. At worst case scenario, you could always just put it back with a Toad. It's a solid card nonetheless. So that's it for the links. For the Xyz monsters, we're playing double Bahamut Shark, double Toad. That's standard. Anybody who's not playing that, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice, because this deck just makes Toads for free, basically. Then I'm playing one Poseidra Abyss, the Atlantean Dragon Lord. This card is nuts. I explained what it does in the last profile because it was already out by then. But basically, you can either, it takes 3 level 7 monsters, which with a Shadow Squad is not difficult to do, but also you can also just overlay this over the Mermail Abyss Gaios, or any Mermail or Atlantean Xyz monster you control. And also, now what it does is you can detach 2 materials from it and then send a water monster to graveyard for cost, and non-targeting bounce up to 3 cards your opponent controls back to the hand. Also, if this Xyz summon card is sent to the graveyard by any means, you can discard 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, and then special summon up to 3 level 3 or lower fish, aqua, or sea serpents from your hand or graveyard, which just allows you to rebuild your board, so it both breaks boards and makes boards. Really, really strong card. Then we are playing Stealth Kraken. Stealth Kraken is in here for the decks that need particular qualifications for their monsters, so things like Voiceless Voice, things like Tenpai Dragon, even though that deck is essentially dead at this point. Things like, say, Flu. This makes everything on both players' fields water, and that is relevant. So, then we are playing one Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller, we all know why it's in here. I mean, Abyss Dweller is still one of the strongest cards in the game. Then we are playing one the Virtue Dragon, and this is obviously for the Virtue combo. And then last but not least, we are playing one Ice Jade Gamir Azurine, which is in effect a water SP Little Knight in a way that also protects your board from being destroyed or banished. So yeah, it's pretty solid. I really, really felt like this lineup today was very strong. I feel like the weakest out of this lineup, to be honest with you, was the Stealth Kraken. But the Stealth Kraken still did its job when it needed to. Yeah, so, I mean, the MVP of the extra deck, to be quite honest with you, though, is the Poseidra Abyss. Poseidra Abyss is absolutely nutty. I mean, this card does so much for the deck. So that's it for the extra deck. And now we're going to get into the side deck. This is a tournament report in a way, so I will profile the side deck and kind of show you guys what I was on and what I didn't really care for, as well as what I really did enjoy in the side deck. So first and foremost, I sided triple Nibiru. Nibiru is not as good of a card as it was before this current format, or even the format before, to be quite honest with you. But it is still a strong card in rogue matchups. I did use this against our resident zombie player. Shout out to Johnny Savoy. Really cool dude. Really good guy. Really solid zombie player. And he was setting up some crazy boards, and I had to use the Nibiru to clear his board. But he was still able to make a pretty solid board even through a Nibiru. So yeah, but it did allow me to play into his, kind of soften his board a little bit and make some, solid plays thereafter so that I could try and crack it. But yeah, so triple Nibiru, I think it was all right. I think it's a solid card to still side, but still, I do think that it's best against Malice more than anything. It's not really that great against Ryziel, in my opinion, but it can be. It also depends, really. But I mean, because generally speaking, I feel like Ryziel just tends to end on a couple of rank 4s, and yeah, they're doing a lot of summoning to get to those rank 4s. But if they just end, they could just if they say, for example, read that you have an Nibiru, they could just like end on Detonator in some way or something like that. So I mean, granted, the board is duo drive Detonator and some other rank 4s or whatever, but I feel like Nibiru is just a solid card overall. A card that I really actually did not like in the side deck was double Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. This card really underperformed. I used this against my one loss, which was the Ryziel player, and he just protected the Detonator. This card did absolutely nothing. So I'm probably going to cut this moving forward. And then my other side, this actually never came in, but I still think I'm going to side it just because it is an in-engine way to clear face-down back row. One, Atlantean Marksman. I haven't played Marksman in a long time, but honestly, Marksman I feel like is a solid card if you're playing the Mermail strategy because of the fact that it is an in-engine way to clear back row, and this deck struggles against trap decks and decks that play a lot of back row. So yeah, so then from there, we are playing double thrust, one tactics talent, one equip spell. The equip spell is in here because it does allow you to mitigate cards like Dark Ruler and Droplet. Thrust or talents is in here because it's a thrust target, and thrust is in here because it's one of the best spells in the game at the moment. So yeah, to be honest with you, I actually only saw thrust once, and it did in effect kind of win me the matchup, I believe, against a player named Joe, who I was able to kind of crack his field a little bit in game 3, set up a board, and then because he activated an effect in monster effect during my turn, I just set an impermanence. So yeah, that was the thing. Next for traps, we are playing triple Dominus Impulse. I barely sided this in, but I do still think it is a solid card to play. I don't think I don't think I would cut this at this point, but I'm not going to main it because I feel like against Ryziel, this is actually a bad card. Like, Nibiru is questionable. It depends upon, how they are playing or how many summons they've already performed versus, what they've already established. But Dominus Impulse is terrible against Ryziel, in my opinion. However, against Malice, I feel like this card can actually work rather well, again, depending upon what you hit. But still, this card, still a solid card in my opinion. I don't see why you would cut it. Then I am playing one D-Barrier. This is for things that, summon a lot of one specific kind of extra deck or ritual monster. It's D-Barrier. It's a turn skip. Why wouldn't you play it? And then last but not least, one evenly matched. This was the other thrust. These two were thrust targets, although the Impulse could also technically be considered a thrust target. And to be honest with you, I never use this. This I used a few times. And overall, I would say the MVP of this side deck, to be quite honest with you, was surprisingly enough the Nibiru, or that's the ogre, my apologies, the Nibiru. I feel like this card was probably the best card in my side deck besides the Mermail Equip spell, which we all know always gets sided in Game 3. I want to main this so bad because this card used to be one of my main end board pieces, but to be honest with you, it's just too bricky to main right now. With the meta being as volatile and crazy as it is, you don't want to like limit your plays by just drawing brick cards simply because they're good in some scenarios and bad in others. You want to maximize the value that your cards give you. You want to maximize you want to optimize what your cards do for your combos and what your cards do in order to play. And with Mermail right now, unfortunately, the Abyss Scale of Mizuchi is just not that card unless you're going into Game 3 and you know they have a relevant spell card that they need to activate and resolve. So, but that is it for my Mermail deck list. That went, I believe, 3rd place. So, I think the deck performed well. All in all, it did exactly what I wanted it to do the majority of the time, and in the times that it didn't, I just hand-trucked my opponent to death. So, the deck is still solid, and we're only going to get better when Supreme Darkness comes out. I'm pretty hyped. So, Eric here, Team Eccentric. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I will try and do some more duel videos for you guys. I have some in the works. And yeah, we're signing out.